Alright, in this video we're going to be looking for the null space of this matrix, and the first thing that we need to do is we need to get this into row reduced echelon form. So in order to do that, what we can do is we can do some row operations. We're going to take the top row, and I'm going to take 1/2 of row 1, and then here we're going to take 1/3 of row 2, and then that will be 2 divided by 2, which is going to be 1, 4 divided by 2, which is going to be 2, 0, and then -2 divided by 2, which is going to be -1. And then on the bottom row, we're going to have 1 divided by 3, that's going to be, 3 divided by 3, and then 3 divided by 3 again, that's 1, 1 divided by 3, and then 2 divided by 3. Now we want to have a 0 here, so what we can do is we can take row 2 minus row 1, and that will give us 1, 2, 0, -1. 1 minus 1 is going to be 0. 1 minus 2 is going to be -1. 1/3 minus 0 is going to be 1/3. And then, so then we have 2 over 3 minus -1, which is going to be +1. So 2 over 3 plus 1 is going to be 5 over 3. And then after that, what we can do is we can multiply this by -1. 1, 2, 0, -1, 0, +1, 1 over 3, that's negative, -5 over 3. Now here what we can do is we can do row 1 minus 2 of row 2. So we'll rewrite that. We have 1 minus 2 times 0, which is just going to be 1. 2 minus 2 times 1 is going to be 0, which is what we want. And then we have 0 minus -1 over 3, so that's going to be 2 over 3 plus 2 over 3. So here we'll have -1 plus +10 over 3, and that should be 7 over 3. And then finally we can come back here, 0, 1, -1 over 3 minus 5 over 3. Probably not the most elegant way to do it. So that is our row reduced echelon form. You can also use a calculator and generate it a lot quicker. But let me just rewrite it here, 1, 0, 2 over 3. So now what we essentially have is two different sets of numbers here. We have x1, x2, x3, and then x4, and we can set them equal to 0. So this 1 here, we have 1x1 plus, then we have 0x2, so we're just going to leave that out. And then here we have 2 over 3 x3, 2 over 3 x3 plus, and then we have 7 over 3 x4. And that's going to be equal to 0, because that's what the null space is. We're trying to figure out when this equals to 0. And then here, the second row here, we have 0 of x1. Then we have, by the way, let me just clarify that this is a plus sign. So for the second row here, we have 0 of x1, we have 1 of x2, and then we have -1, 3. We can write plus here, it doesn't matter. -1, 3, x3, and then plus -5 over 3, x4. And that is also going to be equal to 0. So what we want to do essentially is solve for x1 and x2, because these are our two pivots that we have going right here. So we can move all this stuff over to the right side, where we have x1 is going to be equal to -2 over 3 x3 minus 7 over 3 x4. And then here we have x2 is equal to, and then we have plus 1 over 3 x3, and then we have plus 5 over 3 x4. But now we can rewrite this, and we want to write it kind of in the form where we have x1, x2, x3. This is just a regular vector. But we can simplify it by getting rid of the x1 and the x2, because we know this equivalency here. So what we're going to do is get rid of that, and instead of writing x1, we can write -2 over 3 x3 minus 7 over 3 x4. And then here we have 1 over 3 x3, and then we have plus 5 over 3 x4. And then here we'll have x3 and then x4. basically what we had before, except instead of writing x1 here and x2, we just put it in terms of x3 and x4. Let me go ahead and clean this up and get rid of it because we don't really need it. But we can kind of pull out the x3 and the x4, and we can write this as x3. And then here we have, you can see we have a negative 2 over 3, negative 2 over 3. And then we have 1 over 3 for x3, so we'll do that, 1 over 3. And then here you can see that we have 1x3, so that's a 1, right? 1 times x3 is just equal to 1. And then here, there's no x3. On this line, there's no x3 at all, so we would say that that's a 0. And then we can say plus x4, and then pull this out. And again, looking at each one of these lines, we've already done the x3. What we have is a negative 7 over 3 for x4. And then here we have 5 over 3, 5 over 3. And then we have this is actually a 0. There's no x4 in this term. So we have a 0 and then a 1. And then that is our answer.